Hello, salam and good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. I feel like we haven't actually said that line in a really long time.
I think I did last time.
You did? That might be true. It's definitely something. I don't know. I am one of your lovely, illustrious hosts. The least lovely and illustrious of all three, but still one of your Amin Khan Mahale, the one who brings the flag into battle and waves it around and goes, "Do you hear the Ashaman channeling lots and lots of siding?" Daniel.
I am another one of your apparently illustrious hosts, Andrew. Josh is for at least a time here with us in spirit. Family things do what they do and come up and inconvenience us from the things that actually matter, like a podcast. You know, who prioritizes family over podcasts? I mean, come on. But all of us, we know that. It's a joke. God.
For those of you listening who aren't actually watching the live stream, I know there isn't.
Yes, we're not serious. Stream. Yes, family always.
I raised my hand. It was adorable.
Yeah, it was kind of cute, you know. But there is a good chance that Josh will join us at least partway through the episode. He's just got to pick up some stuff and get back home and get settled, tumble some rocks, giggity, and then hopefully be on with us. So, yeah. Fun stuff.
Yes, rumble some rocks. He needs to rumble some rocks around the taint hole. But you do have the two of us at least here for a little while, which, I mean, there was a time when it was only the two of us, so we know how to do this. It's been done before. It will happen again.
I've been here before.
We have three. I do not remember this place. But yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are glad that you are here with us live, for all of the lovely and wonderful patrons who are joining us in our Discord. And we are glad that you are here not live, but still here anyway. For all of those of you who have downloaded this off of your favorite podcast app to listen in your ear holes, and or have opened up YouTube and are listening to this with your ear holes and taking it in with your eye holes. Oh,
with all the holes.
So many holes. All the holes. Take it in.
No matter how many holes, the Black Tower Podcast can fill all of your needs.
But yeah, tonight we're actually talking about a super fun topic. We're actually going back to an old sort of series, if you will, that we haven't actually jumped into for a while, because we've been doing a lot of other things, especially guests, which have been super fun. But it's good to get back to something a little bit familiar, something that we haven't...
Back to the basics.
Back to the basics. Yes, I like it. But yeah, so before we actually get into what we are talking about tonight, we do have a few things to mention. We like to do them a little earlier in the episode nowadays because, you know, we don't want you to forget about them and things like that. So
because just like your ex-boyfriend, the plugs come early.
Wow. All right, then.
Why not?
So if you somehow found us off of just, browsing YouTube or browsing whatever, way that you get podcasts, and you just went ahead and stumbled onto this episode, fantastic. We are super glad you're here. If you would like to know more about the Black Tower Podcast, then go to blacktowerpod.com.
Did you know that the Black Tower Podcast has its very own website? No? Well, then make sure you head on over to www.blacktowerpod.com for even more Black Tower Podcast tainty goodness. On our site, you can find all of our social media links conveniently located towards the bottom left. If you're on a computer, there are links to the Facebook page, our Twitter, our YouTube, and our Instagram. So you can keep up to date with us by finding all of our social media there. Also on our website, you can find a link to the forums that we have, where we have all kinds of discussions, and as Morshadi has done plenty of times, run naked through the forums. No worries, there's no pictures. We turned off the cameras for that. You can find links to Black Tower Podcast merch, both on New Creations by Jen and from Spreadshirt, where you can find any of our designs that we've ever put out, and you can go and get yourself whatever kind of merchandise you want, be it shirts, glasses, aprons for cooking, bags, hats, buttons, anything that you want, you can find in between the two merch shops that we have. The website also has a very quick and accessible link for our Discord, where you can come and join all of the fantastic tainty discussions that we have in our Discord server. We do have sections for spoiler and non-spoiler content, so you can come and enjoy something for you if you have finished a series, or something for you if you haven't finished a series. Another key feature is our Dragonsworn on demand section, where you can automatically see the most recent 5 videos from our YouTube that will play on an automatic playlist for you on the website, a quick button to get to our YouTube there as well, and you can just listen to the most recent 5 episodes that we have posted on Podbean. If you're curious about events and things we have coming up, we also have the Black Tower calendar, where you can go and look and see when we generally do our live Patreon recordings, when our episodes go live, and any events and things that we have coming up that we can put on the calendar. A quick link to our Patreon, where you can join and get access to all kinds of different content, including pre-recordings, and depending on the tier, early access to episodes, shoutouts, all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, we will update the Patreon whenever we do have the updates ready to go live. We are still working on that. That is coming as of right now. Make sure you head on over to our website, where you can literally get access to anything that we have and we put out.
Also, from there, you can click on some links, clickety clack, and you can pop over to New Creations by Jen.
Everybody loves merchandise, and one of the best possible places to go and get yourself some really dope Wheel of Time inspired and themed merchandise is, of course, newcreationsbyjen.com. So whenever you go to newcreationsbyjen.com, whether you're looking for just Wheel of Time inspired stuff or not, you can find all kinds of really cool merchandise and goodie opportunities, all the way from gifts for your family, friends, significant others, whoever have you, newborns, children, toddlers, women, men, adults, anybody that wants anything, you can find something for them for sure on New Creations by Jen. Now, most of you listening are going to be looking for Wheel of Time stuff, and the easiest way to find it is to go to the catalog section on New Creations by Jen, where you can see the groups of stuff for us at Black Tower Podcasts, Malkir Talks, Talking Around Riyadh, Will Reads, The Will Weaves, and Weekly Will News. So you can find all of this stuff, and you can browse and look at all the different kinds of things that each content creator that is a part of New Creations by Jen's has taken and asked Jen and Rob to put up on the site. Obviously, we're going to use ours as an example so that you can go in and look at Black Tower Podcast stuff, because we are the Black Tower Podcast. So if you go on, you can get our Two Rivers Sniper shot glass, as well as Two Rivers Sniper shirt. It's available on a red shirt. So you can go on and you can get our Frosty mug, which is one of the Frosty mug collectibles. Each Wheel of Time content creator that is on New Creations by Jen has a Frosty mug that you can go in and get for yourself. So after you get ours, make sure you get the others and get the entire set and join the Frosty Mug Society. Of course, there's more than just Frosty mugs and little shot glasses, and there's plenty of different kinds of shirts with different designs on them from all of the different content creators. Of course, you can find ours where you can get our logo in black and white on a shirt. I have one myself. It's fantastic, and I love it. Jen and Rob do an amazing job of working with not only their customers, but the content creators that they help support with this amazing and very good quality merchandise. So, if you have not head over to New Creations by Jen and gotten yourself something dope, make sure you go and do that. Again, it's newcreationsbyjen.com.
But before we actually get into what the topic is for today, I am pretty sure we are going to spoil stuff. I don't think we're actually going to end up going all the way until the end of the books, but just to be safe, we will, because there's definitely stuff about them that is all the way till the end of the series ish, at least near the end of the series. So, hey, Andrew, you wanna slap on that protection for us?
Yeah,
Actually, please don't slap it on. That doesn't feel.
Let's
good.
do that, and we're gonna let everybody's favorite chef do it now.
Ah, yes.
Welcome to the Black Tower. This is your spoiler condom. If you have not read the complete works of Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time, books 1 to 14, and also New Spring, Big Bad Book of White Art, and The Companion, you are at risk of being spoiled. Spoilers come with side effects. These side effects may include headache, nausea, vomiting, death, dizziness, vaginal or penile eruptions and ejaculations, dysentery, cardiac arrhythmia, mild heart explosions, varicose veins, darkened stool, darkened souls, more vomiting, arthritis, hemorrhoids or diabetes, virginity, mild discomfort, vampirism or werewolfism, gender inequality for the whole planet, spontaneous dental hydroplosion, sugar highs, even more vomiting, or maybe just a mild rash. If you cannot deal with these side effects, please leave now for fear of spoilers. You have been warned.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think my three favorite things about the Sexiest Chef's spoiler warning are the way he says condom at the beginning, the virginity comment, which just comes out of nowhere and is so intensely like, virginity! And then last, the wolf howl at the end that just ties the whole thing together.
It's pretty good. It's really good. It's more than pretty good. It's really good.
It's very good.
So now that the spoiler is out of the way, and before we introduce the topic of this one, if you haven't already, if you're listening live, then of course this coming Friday, as we're recording, the 16th, our episode where we had Jason Denzel from Dragamon on will be out live. So if you are not one of our second tier patrons or higher and haven't been able to go back and watch it and weren't able to catch it live, that's whenever it will come out publicly for everybody. For those of you that are listening to this episode, if you somehow missed the last episode as of the date this episode comes out publicly, go back and make sure that you watch our episode with Jason Denzel. It was episode 24. Yeah, 24 of the second season. You can find it on YouTube. It was incredible. I might have now finally calmed down from it.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah.
Also, if you are listening to this live, Andrew, you can either edit this out for those people who are later because this will be too late for them, or you can just leave it in and people can feel bad about having missed it. It will be recorded, so you can go back for posterity, but you will have missed the live stream this coming Saturday.
And the giveaways.
This coming Saturday on the 17th, We do have a live stream scheduled where we will be announcing some long overdue but majorly awesome changes for our Patreons, as well as some fun things that we are just excited for and getting, ready for, as well as some fun surprise guests.
What he said. So be there or have to watch it later.
Yeah, it will be 6 to 8 p.m. the Eastern Standard Time. So be there. Don't be square. Don't be lame. Be there.
Yeah. So
but
try to pick a decently early but not super late time for a weekend day.
Yes.
So hopefully everybody can make it.
Yep. So enough about all of the things that we have coming up. We have something that we're doing tonight, and that is an episode of the Black Tower podcast. And tonight's topic, or tonight's whatever we're talking about.
The topic we say we're going to talk about.
I know, right? We are actually, as I said, going back a little bit to a sort of older sort of set of
series that wasn't really a series.
A series that wasn't a series.
I think we only did like maybe 2.
Well, I mean, to be honest, other than the actual nations of Randland, there aren't a ton of sort of secondary or tertiary cultures that we've needed to do this for. Because we know a lot about Andor, we know a lot about Kyrie, and we know a lot about a number of different places, but it is still fun to sort of learn about other places. So we are doing another culture deep dive into the lesser known cultures of Randland and beyond. So we have done, different ones in the past that have been things like the Aiel. We've done ones like the Shan-Chan, things like that. Yes, it was a hard episode to do. But today we are going ahead and talking about all things Borderlands. So if your land touches the Blight in any way, we're talking about you. We're talking about Shienar. We're talking about Arafel. We're talking about Saldaea. We talk about all the places on the edge of Randland that protect us from all those things that go bump in the night, like Trollocs, like Mirdrawl, like the Dark One himself. Basically, all of the worms, which are fucking terrifying, and we're only ever in one book. Yeah, that stuff.
Much like quicksand when I was like in elementary school. I thought worms were going to be a much bigger problem.
Right. Dude, the Bermuda Triangle and quicksand were like nuts when I was a kid. I was definitely like, why are we not doing something about this? How is there just an area of our planet that like airplanes and ships go missing and we're just not fucking dealing with it? And then I learned when I was an adult that like fucking no, it's not actually that big of a deal, and you won't deal with this ever. And we do know where ships go. We have radar now.
That we do.
But anyway, yeah, we doing the Borderlands today. You're gonna learn today about the Borderlands.
Yeah. So let's start kind of overall with the Borderlands, which of course, like Daniel's pretty much already said, it's the overall name given to as of the Third Age 4 nations that border the Blight on the to the north of mainland Randland. Those nations are, of course, Shienar, Arafel, Kandor, and Saldaea. There's been a total of actual 10 nations that have been part of the Borderlands since the breaking of the world. And the term Borderlands started being used around the time of Otter Hawkwing, if not a little bit later. But that's kind of like the earliest that it possibly was in. So initially, the two original Borderland nations were Jaramide and Aramel, until Aramel was destroyed in the Trolloc Wars, and Jaramide collapsed shortly thereafter. Without their senpai Oni-chan to help keep them going.
I hate you so much.
Out of the ruins of these two nations came Basharande, but God, why? El Salam and Ramsdashar, which I butchered probably all three of. But
To be
those
honest,
three,
I don't have any idea whether you did or didn't.
I don't know.
I've never looked those up in the glossary because they don't come up like at all.
Yeah. We're going to say that I got it right just for the sake of my own self-esteem and ego, because that definitely impacts my self-esteem for sure. Totally. But these three nations guarded the Blight during what is known as the Free Years, and then were later conquered by Alter Hawkwing, who split them into the 5 provinces of his empire: Saldaea, Kandor, Arafel, Shienar, and Malkir. Though Shienar did not become a borderland nation until the destruction of Malkir many years later.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's kind of like their brief ancestry.com. As far back as we can tell on their ancestry.com. That's kind of where they came from. So there's something to be said there about, one nation's loss and broken towers is another nation's gain of supposed honor. But I would much rather have kept Malkir.
Yeah. Though, if we're being honest, as much as I don't wish this on anyone and would never wish this on anyone,
definitely not publicly in a recorded forum.
Even in a not publicly recorded forum. I would never actually wish the destruction of an entire people and an entire nation on anyone or any nation. However,
that's where you're going. Then, yeah, I agree.
That we would never get Al-Lan Mandragoran if Malkir doesn't fall. I mean, we do. He's still born, probably, but he's not the man he becomes. He's not the most badass motherfucker if Malkir doesn't fall and he doesn't go and live in the Borderlands elsewhere for a little while, and then goes and meets Moraine, and then turns into a warder, and then goes and finds the Emmonsfield 5, and then the story from there.
Yeah. So it was during the War of the 100 Years that the 5 then Borderland nations broke away from Alter Hawkwing's empire, declared their independence, and also an alliance with each other, both supporting each other and coming to an agreement that they would aid each other fighting against the Shadow and any attempts by more southerly nations to attack them and invade them.
Yep.
And that stayed strong until about 955 NE, when Malkir was destroyed by both internal betrayal and external attack, and the Blight took over. Thus, Shienar took over Malkir's role as the easternmost borderlander country. And the 4 remaining countries maintain a military lifestyle of constant vigilance against the Blight to the north. And by the time we come, the story starts for us. That's an awkward pause in the editing, but whatever. For the last 3,000 years, the 4 remaining Borderlander nations have guarded the whole of Randland against the Blight, keeping an eye on it, fighting back attacks from Trollocs and Murdral as they continue to try to expand the Blight southerly, because they don't want us to have nice things.
No, they want us to have. Oh no, the Trollocs don't want.
The Trollocs, yeah. The Shadow doesn't want us.
I was like, wait, the Borderlands want us to have nice things. That's why
Borderlands don't care if we have nice things. They just don't want to lose their nice things.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean, honestly, the fact that the Borderlands end up going ahead and just declaring their independence and whatnot from Arter Hawkwing is so obvious to me. It's so clear, and it's so clear cut, and it's so very, for lack of like a particularly better phrase, it's very Borderlands of them. Because like when it comes right down to it, Arter Hawkwing ends up going ahead and spending the last, like, his twilight years and whatnot. Fucking, I know he doesn't actually really make twilight years. His technically twilight years, because he makes them his twilight years because he doesn't trust Aes Sedai.
Yep.
Besieging the White Tower, and the Borderlands are like sitting there like murdering Trollocs as they're trying to get into Randland and being like, we have better things to do than worry about this motherfucker Arter Hawkwing and his stupid Aes Sedai like fucking fetish.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna be independent and protect all these fucking idiots from these nightmares.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Borderlands, they don't have a lot of love for the IL either, especially the Shienarans, because the IL for a very long time would consistently try to raid Shienar through the Neon passes, which was more of an annoyance for the Shienarans because they're like, you're distracting us from fighting the Shadow.
Yes.
But they probably also got tired of it. All four Borderlander nations sent substantial forces as part of the Grand Alliance against the IL during the IL War. However, the forces from Saldaea and Kandor had to return home due to increased shadow spawn raids. But 29,000 men from Shienar and 21,000 from Arafel fought at the Battle of the Shining Walls, along with a small force of Malkiri veterans under Lan Mandragoran. Mandragon.
Outland Mandragoran.
Yeah, but for the most part, the Borderlands, they don't really pay attention to what happens south of them, other than make sure somebody's not trying to sneak up and take them from behind.
Giggity.
They're mainly focused on what they see is the real fight, which you see very early on whenever we first meet the Borderlanders in like Valdara, where they're very focused on what's happening north. They're very supportive of any efforts to curb what happens north and to stop north. And when they hear things like, oh, the Ilianers and Tyrians, or Tarians, whatever you want to call them, are fighting again, they're like, oh, we don't care. They're stupid. They should be fighting up here, but they're not real men.
They're not real men.
Or real warriors. Let's go with that. More gender neutral.
Fair. Yeah, I like that.
It is cool, though, because in the Borderlands, all men have to carry swords at all times in case of an attack. And due to the constant threat, there's not really any country in the Borderlands that has its own very super distinct military style formation. They very much talk and share, hey, we did this formation and it worked really well. We only lost 100 guys instead of 1,000 guys like we did last time, so maybe you should try it. And they're all like, cool. But it has the added benefit of allowing them to work better together more seamlessly, because you don't have to have Saldaeans adapting to the military tactics of Kandor, and that creating kind of vulnerabilities between the two armies whenever they're fighting together.
Yes, they are definitely... I mean, the Borderlands very, very, very much remind me, not necessarily in their, the setup of their nation necessarily as far as their culture, other than the fact that everyone is a fighter of Sparta. I mean, they're very Spartan as far as, again, there are farmers, there are weavers, there are basket makers, there are bakers, there are, all of the people who are necessary to go ahead and have a civilized society and have culture and have, commerce and whatnot that actually works. But in the end, if you ask a Shienaran, if you ask an Arafel, if you ask a Saldaean, if you ask a Kandori, what are you? they would say, I protect you from the Blight. No,
Yeah.
What do you do as a job? I'm a soldier. What do you do when you're not a soldier? Oh, I bake bread. Like, and so definitely, I very much see them as these sort of Spartans of Randland, where they know what's important. They know what needs to be done. They have seen the bad things. Their territory is constantly encroached upon by this, sickly, sweet, disgusting, trees and land and all of that. And add to that the fact that regularly out of that disgustingness come Trollocs who are trying to kill you. They're like, yeah, no, we know what needs to be up. And the constant battle in my head, as far as, if I were a Borderlander, to want to protect myself, want to protect those I love, and want to protect all of my friends and neighbors from Trolloc raids and whatnot would be so high. But also, on the other hand, just letting a few Andorans just let a few Trollocs through so that they can run down through Saldaea into Andor, so that we can remind all those fucking foofy Andorans what we're actually fighting against, so they stop fighting each other for the stupid lion throne that nobody even gives a shit about.
Yeah.
That'd be so nice. How about
Yeah.
you send a few more fucking soldiers up here, you idiots?
Yeah. So the last kind of thing, I guess, on the Borderlands as a whole, at least in terms of like, their history and kind of what they've done through the books, is eventually after Rand's battle in the sky over Falma, I believe it's Huron, travels with a bunch of other travelers. Yeah, Huron returns to Shienar.
Yep.
And basically tells Lord Agomar what happened. And after that, it's Lord Agomar that lets the other Borderlander rulers know what's happening. And between the four nations, they amass an army of 200,000 soldiers that then leaves and marches southward to find Rand and make sure that he actually is the dragon reborn, which they do inevitably do. They meet Rand in Far Madding. They question him, and then they join his forces and immediately march from there to the field of Marilor. So, yeah, that's kind of Borderlands overall, like as a collective.
Yeah, that's
and sorry about
nutshell
the background
Borderlands.
noise because apparently it's vacuum time.
Yeah, it happens.
So,
It's not actually
but
that
yeah,
bad, so.
So
I'm sure
why
you're
don't we
actually hearing it a lot more than we are.
probably I could see a couple times at least it was coming through on Discord, but more of my audio seems to come through on Discord than it does on Zoom anyway.
Fair.
So Daniel, would you like to start us with a discussion on Shienar? Or pick one of the other four? What
The
do
other
you have to
three?
say?
Unless are we also going to do Malkir?
No, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
It's totally up to you.
I'm good with whatever.
So Shienar. Shienar is actually
according to the script, let's definitely do that because we plan these things super well.
We'll see what we have time for. We'll focus on the first four, and if we have some extra time at the end, which we probably won't, but I'm still holding out hope always that we are succinct and good at being not talky forever.
Oh, sweet. Because while you're talking, I'm going to refill my glass of taint.
Talky forever. Good. Yeah. Shienar is actually, in my opinion, Actually, that's not fair. I was going to say they were the most interesting to me, but that's not necessarily true. We don't actually get as much information about the other three. The two that we get the most information about are Shienar and then Saldaea, and mostly because in the Eye of the World, Rand and the other Emmonsfield Five, as well as Moraine and Lan and whatnot, do actually spend a significant amount of time in Shienar, and Rand actually does learn a lot through his perspectives, which we then get to hear about the culture of Shienar and whatnot. And then, of course, later on, we do learn a little bit more about Saldaea, thanks to Fail. We don't really get a ton of information about Arafel and Kandor, though I'm sure it's there. It just doesn't come across quite as strongly as the information they get about Shienar or Saldaea. Excuse me. So one of the biggest things that we actually know about Shienar, which is sort of kind of true about all of the Borderlands, is, again, that idea that everyone's a warrior. Everyone's a soldier. Everyone carries a sword, or at least some kind of weapon. And that is definitely, again, because there is a constant threat of Shadow Spawn entering the city, or at least attacking the city, and you need to be ready at a moment's notice to go and fight and defend yourselves against the Shadow Spawn. In Shienar, there is actually an interesting thing where, again, in the city of Shienar, which I think Shienar is the capital of Shienar, which is one of those wonderful things. No, you're totally right. Falmoran. Thank you. You're absolutely right. I was being totally blanked. I appreciate you, and you're actually having the information up and or in your head. One of the two.
Yes, it's definitely in my head.
But yeah, in Falmoran, thank you very much for reminding me. That is where...
if I didn't, Shoddy would have got you, so you're covered.
In Falmoran, that is where the seat of power in Shienar lies. That is where Agomar Jagad seems to live. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere else he would. I don't know why I said that. He lives there. He's cool. It's the capital of Shienar, basically.
He's in Faldara, I believe.
Well, why'd you correct me to Falmoran? Is that the capital?
Because Falmoran is the capital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Faldara is the northernmost city in Shienar, which is why Moraine and Lan fuck. Not why they fuck, but why they take the
fuck because of
Monfielder 5 plus Ogier. Post-battle recovery rebound fuck.
But yeah, so sorry. I do apologize. Yes. Faldara is where they are. Falmoran is where the seat of power in Shienar is. That's absolutely true. I apologize for all of my mistakery. Yes. Agomar
has it right. Agomar is the Lord of Faldara,
which is where they are. And that's why I'm bringing up where Agomar Jagad is, because it's the one that we have the information about, because that is the one where all of the central people to the story go. In Faldara, at least in the sort of, keep, the castle, the whatever you want to call it, there are different living quarters for the men and for the women. I don't know what you do if you're married, but there are different living quarters for the men and for the women. And since Rand and Matt and Perrin are all unmarried, and Nynaeve and Egwene are all unmarried, they live separately in different quarters in the castle. And there are incredibly strict rules about sort of the gender roles and the gender allowances that happen in Faldara. It basically seems like the women are actually kind of the more powerful as far as normal sort of everyday society happens, whereas the men are basically, gods on the battlefield in some ways.
Yeah, which
It
makes
does.
sense because I mean the Borderlander society is very much a I don't know if it's exclusively male military service.
No,
I kind of
it seems
doubt that
to
it is,
be.
but it seems
Yeah.
like it.
I'm sure.
Though I know they talk about there are times that
Yes.
just like we see later on with the Two Rivers, that the women of the nations will, they're definitely nobody you want to fight
Oh
either.
yeah, they mama bear pretty hard and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's a fairly common historical thing where on the home front the women have a ton of power. Like thinking back to Sparta and everything, whenever the kings
Yes.
were out at war and waging campaigns, it was their wives, the queens, that they didn't really hold all the power.
Yeah.
But they were still very formidable political forces.
Well, and of course, I
Because
love that.
you need people back home to maintain the homestead to, carry on and maintain that so that your forces can focus on fighting.
Well, and I absolutely love in some ways again, Robert Jordan is kind of a master at this of not subverting your expectations, but just every time you see people, just like in real life, they're so alike on so many levels. So the Shienarans are constantly fighting Shadow Spawn and kind of constantly fighting Aiel raids. And they hate the Aiel. It's not like Carianans and Aiel, but like they definitely don't like each other. The Aiel think that the Borderlanders are soft. The Borderlanders think that the Aiel are savages. They don't understand each other at all. They don't understand their societies. And yet, if you actually get a chance, like later on, when Rand learns both about Shienar and then later about the Aiel, their societies are like super similar. Like stupid similar. And if I feel like if the Shienarans and the Aiel just like sat down and had some calf or Uzquai in a sweat tent and talked this shit out, they would both be like, hey, you know what the most important thing is? Fighting Sightblinder and keeping everybody safe from the Blight. And also, maybe we should not fight each other because like we're the same fucking people.
Like, hey guys, you're pretty cool and you're really good fighters. And we'd like you if you didn't do that, keep stealing our shit when we're looking the other way. Like, come on. But yeah,
anyway.
So they have 8 towns and cities within Shienar. The two most popular, of course, being Faldara at the top, which is the northeasternmost city near Tarwin's Gap, and then the capital of Fal Moran. And you can find the others. There's a little bit about them, but not a ton.
Sure.
But interesting parallel to Shienar in real life. Shienar is mentioned several times in the Christian Bible, meaning 2 rivers, possibly a reference to the 2 rivers, as Robert Jordan might have interpreted. But in the Bible, it refers to the areas of Mesopotamia.
Yes.
In addition, there's another kingdom in the Bible mentioned in Genesis 14:1 that is Elisar, which may be translated into Izar, the king of Shienar.
Yes.
But in the Bible, the king of Shienar was
yeah, that one.
Amraphel, which might have been the inspiration for the naming of Arafel. If I can ever remember English while pronouncing words that aren't intrinsically English words. So yes. I thought that was pretty cool. And I mean, it kind of ties together the story element inspiration of all the kids from the 2 rivers that start the journey. There we go. Go to Faldara into Shienar.
So, indeed. Yeah.
And apparently Arafel is also a place in the Bible.
It is.
I did not remember that.
Yeah. It's all good. But yeah, so
it's also the Hebrew word for fog and may be a reference to the apocalypse. So there's that.
But yeah. So as I said, Shienar is definitely the one that we get the most information about. We definitely see this very matriarchal society that is also, very in the home front. It's very female driven. The women seem to be able to kind of order the men around. I mean, like, and they don't use that power regularly. But if you cross a Shienaran woman as a Shienaran man, you better fucking watch yourself.
She'll grab you by the top knot.
Yeah, because you have fucked up. And in fact, there's a time where Rand is desperate to leave Shienar because he does not want to come face to face with the Emerald Sea. And he is trying to say goodbye to a number of people and or get their help in getting him out of the city, one or the other or both. And he goes to the women's apartments to find Egwene. And if he wasn't mistaken for a foreign lord, he would have been murdered. Because all of the women are very fascinated about him, given that they think that he is a foreign lord who has been brought by an Aes Sedai, who are, somewhat revered in the society and things like that. But he would have definitely been beat to a pulp with paddles if he was not like the most fascinating person these women had ever seen. But yeah, it's very desert-y, the climate, and that's one of the reasons that we see this like under bed heating, which is one of the things that I think is really cool about Shienar. They have these like, basically ovens that go under their beds because it gets cold as shit at night.
Versus in the South, where you just had a dedicated pot that you threw a bunch of coals from the fire in and put underneath the quilts of your bed if you had enough money in your family to do it. It's a very very old, like U.S. Southern, and I believe also going back into like the Middle Ages kind of way of the first heating blankets that definitely never spontaneously combusted.
Definitely never.
You imagine
it wasn't spontaneous.
True. Could you imagine just like rolling over in your sleep, moving your foot and putting your foot against a scalding hot pot?
Yeah, I can, and it sounds horrible. I'm really glad that we learned about central heating, not discovered, invented central heating.
Really glad we learned about the properties of thermodynamics. You put hot stuff in metal pot get really hot. Hot pot feel good not on foot.
To tinkers who tinkered hot pots under their covers when they thought they were not. Burned off their feet. Ow.
Perfect poem. All right. How about, well, since we were kind of talking about it already, why don't we do Arafel next?
Yeah. So.
Do you want me to do Arafel?
Go ahead.
Let's swap back and forth.
Yeah, I'll definitely obviously add in, but
yeah, of course. I'm not saying you're not allowed to speak. We'll just kick you out of the Zoom call if that was the case, and that'd be a really shitty thing to do.
That would be funny, though. Anyway, go ahead.
So, Arafel sits in between Kandor and Shienar. It's to the east. Well, Shienar is to its east. It is to the west of Shienar. And it stretches from Kandor over east to the river Mora, which marks its border with Shienar. Like we already talked about, we already know when it was formed during the War of 100 Years after, separating from the empires of, or the failing empire of Alter Hawkwing and all that fun stuff. Arafel, much like Shienar, is also a monarchy. At the time that we see Arafel in the books, the current king is Paitar Nachiman, something like that. Nachiman, one of those words. Pick a pronunciation and go with it. His sister, Karuna, is actually an Aes Sedai of the Green Aja, go figure, being from Arafel. And the throne or seat of power for
Nacho,
Arafel.
nacho man. Sorry, I had
You're
to.
fine, dude. Their seat of power is located in Shoal Arbella. So the Arafellan people often wear bells in their hair, which jingle merrily when shaken. So there's probably a Santa Clausy influence there, being northern with bells that shake merrily, possibly. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I think
It's a
that
very
somebody who
loose
made the
connection.
wiki went ahead and said merrily.
I mean, they probably
I
added merrily
definitely
for
see
sure.
it. I definitely see
But I like it.
Arafel more as like, again, not fully in culture, but definitely like the like cornrows or dreads that have bells at the end.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
That's very much what I envision when I think about the sort of Arfellan hairstyle, which we actually see a number of warders later on that are from Arafel and are mentioned regularly in having the sort of braids with the bells.
Yeah. Suwan talks about the Arafellan a few times, mentioning they're very fiery people with what she regards as strange ideas and ideals about honor and debts. That to the point where it's not uncommon for Arafellans to ask to be punished as a means of restoring their honor. That sounds vaguely familiar.
I know, right?
So
God, if they would just sit down with some fucking ideal people.
Yeah. But as was mentioned earlier and mentioned in the live recording chat, Arafel is, like I said earlier, the Hebrew word, or a Hebrew word at least, for fog and may refer to the apocalypse. It was actually used by Frank Herbert in the Dune series to refer to an apocalypse.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. Shoal Arbella, the name Arbella is also the name of a city in Galilee from the Bible, as well as a city in Iraq near which Alexander the Great won one of his many major victories. Arafel is also the main protagonist in the Eldwood Stories series by C.J. Charon. Arafel is the last of the Daon Sedi. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's the highest ranking of the Seti fairy folk, and from that series. And the series has many parallels in theme and source material inspiration from the Wheel of Time, or to the Wheel of Time. So
Interesting.
I don't know. Honestly, like the World War parallels are like honestly the most interesting part of most of this to me. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can see it.
Well, especially the sort of like lesser known ones, because again, once you actually get into the Andorans and into the Kyrianans and into the Aiel, I mean, those they don't fall apart. Like they're still interesting and they're still important, if you will, as far as the inspiration goes. But once you actually have enough culture of a fully like fleshed out nation, so many of those parallels just kind of like fall by the wayside because it's like, no, these are sort of loosely based on like Great Britain. These guys are loosely based on France. These guys are loosely based on, this. But like once they actually have a fully fleshed out identity of their own, it's like, okay, well, but what is who cares about the inspiration? You fucking fleshed out an entire nation. Now they have their own identity. But definitely with the, Arafelans, the people of, Aradoman, the Sharans, all of the people with sort of very little of the story and very sort of little, fully explained identity. All of those real world parallels of sort of what Robert Jordan was thinking of, or at least what people, are positing that Robert Jordan was getting his inspiration from, are super fascinating to me as well. I totally agree with that.
Yep. And Morshadi provided us a little more information on the braids, that it was worn by both men and women, that they both wore their hair in braids. with predominantly a braid over each ear, generally falling beneath or below the shoulders.
I did not know that. I definitely very much saw them as like cornrow braids rather than
what
like
I found from
braids.
what I found whenever we were commissioning an art project for the podcast, some of the podcast stuff, was you really have to search through to get all of the descriptors, or all the descriptors available for the Borderlander nations, because they're spread out. Some online articles will have A, B, and C. Then other one will have B, C, and D. The encyclopedia will have like A, C, D, and F. And then ultimately, if you just go back to the reference material, you'll generally find like a couple more things that are from the actual text that just weren't included in descriptions. So, yeah. Maybe that's something the Great Blights Wiki will do, is consolidate the descriptions from the nice. Lesser known or lesser popular, I guess, areas. So,
yeah, that would be really nice. Hey, Nadeless. That'd be really nice. You should definitely do that.
Yep. But yeah, so their banner is 3 white roses and 3 red roses on a, if you want to call it a checkered field. It technically is checkered pattern, but there's only 4 squares with in a checkered pattern of a red and white. So,
indeed. Yeah. Also, just to mention, because I like that you mentioned that, and I did not for Shienar, their flag is a hawk. I think it's a hawk.
Yeah, it's a hawk. It's a black.
It's a hawk. It's a black hawk that almost feels like it's getting ready to dive on a striped pattern of 3 blue and 2 white striped flag.
Yeah, but there is apparently an inconsistency with the description, because the Wheel of Time companion says that the hawk is instead on a yellow background when used as the flag of Shienar.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised if one is like a battle standard and the other one is a national flag.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't explicitly stated. Maybe.
Yep.
I don't know.
Maybe it's the difference between the flag and the con, if you will, like that kind of difference.
Yeah. Because I know it's there's a lot of places throughout history that like they have a battle standard that incorporates the national flag, or the national flag incorporates aspects of the battle standard, but there's subtle differences. Well, it's maybe also not so subtle.
It's also interesting because when it comes right down to it, in sort of the medieval or Renaissanceian time period, the sigil was actually the important part, and so you'd have the white boar of the Bryn house. You'd have the swooping black eagle, or the swooping black hawk of Shienar. You'd have the white lion of Andor. You'd have all of these different things, and the background of it actually mattered very little. Mm-hmm. The important part was the sigil. And so, of course, definitely for consistency, if you had sort of, the flags over the royal palace, that would be effectively the official sigil of the house and the nation, if you will, as far as the sigil itself, whatever animal or, whatever noun it was, whether it be roses, whether it be hawk, whether it be boar, whether it be whatever, and then they would choose a set of colors for it to be on.
Yeah.
Then if you were running around and you didn't have access to that particular color of flag, often people would still go into battle waving the sigil or presenting the sigil of the house that they would like sew onto something. And it wouldn't necessarily match the background of the true flag that the royals had actually chosen. because they just didn't have access to that particular color, that particular fabric, or whatever. And so I can definitely very much see the idea of it ending up being multiple different colors in multiple different situations just out of necessity rather than like fuck your blue and white. I'm going to go yellow.
Well, again, More Shoddy has given us another nugget of information that I feel like I remember.
A blessing from the Lord.
Yeah, I remember the overarching part. So in the Borderlands, it is forbidden by law to cover or hide your face from view. And it also their law also requires that lamps be pretty much everywhere to get rid of as many shadows as possible as protection against fades. But as Morshadi has pointed out, in Arafel and Kandor, unlike Shienar or Saldaea, the law was amended to allow for for women to wear facial coverings or veils as long as they were lace or anything else transparent, as long as it made it clear that they did in fact have eyes. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I knew that or not. I forget most of what I know. So
yeah, I will admit that even if I did know that, I'm glad to have heard it again. But even if I did actually know that, I associate veils and whatnot so much with another nation that, like, again, it's certainly not that that the hallmarks of certain nations I don't think don't exist elsewhere, but it's definitely like in my head as very much being from a particular place. Like I'm sure that, some Shienarians wear a Hadori, but that's very Melkiri to me. I would not be surprised if there are other places where somebody, walks around wearing a knife as a necklace. But that's very, Terrebonne to me. Like that even if it actually happens elsewhere, that's not a hallmark of their culture. That's a Terrebonner, thing. And such. So it's definitely one of those things where I'm sure I registered it in my brain but didn't actually take it in because I was already like, other people wear veils.
Yeah.
There's a whole nation that wears veils. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, and Morshadi made a good point in the live chat right now that there's some of this that is only really in the companion, or you really only notice in the companion. So he just another one from Arafel is that they would duel, and the choice of weapons went to whoever was challenged to the duel. And it's noted that sometimes the choices were very odd, such as two men fighting each other on horseback with bows, or two men having to fight in a darkened room. But it's also noted that women had been or were known to fight duels that was considered improper, so they would always deny it if it was done. And even though women's duties rarely, if ever, involved swords, they did pretty frequently involve daggers, bows, lances, and even whips. When a trollop comes along, you must whip it.
Must whip it. I like it. No, that is actually really interesting. Also, that's a very real world parallel. Because I don't know if this was always true or there were, differences nationally or different things like that. But actually, the idea that that if you and I were to get into a disagreement, and we were in a time where duels were common enough for me to challenge you to one, and you said something about my mother, and I challenged you to a duel, it would then be on you to choose weapons and me to choose time. And so that's actually, again, very much real world parallel that there are absolutely people out there who I'm sure did not challenge other people to duels because they knew they would lose because the other person got the opportunity to pick a weapon they were better in. And so, I don't know how many Arafel duels were stopped that way, but I know it happened in the real world. Because if I'm a sword master and you challenge me to a quarterstaff fight, I'm fucked.
I think we've seen proof of that in the books.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel all about it at all.
I don't know. I feel a little bit bad about it.
I don't feel bad for two guys that got their ass beat by a farm boy that was still pretty sick.
I do feel like Gauntlet should have looked a little bit better, because fuck Gauntlet. Gauntlet could go second dick, but and I mean, like, I don't like Gauntlet that much, but at the same time, I feel like he got the long end of the stick in his middle, and it was a little unfair. But yeah, anyway, God, Arafel is actually a lot more. There's a lot more information on Arafel than I actually remember.
Well, I appreciate your candor.
Ah, I see what you did there. Yeah, so we're moving further west here. Again, we started in Shienar, the furthest east, and we're moving on. We're moving on up to the east side.
Well, technically it's the west side, but all right. We're moving west.
Right. Sorry, we are moving west. So yes, Kandor is located sandwiched between Saldaea on the east. No, Saldaea on the west. It's on the east of Saldaea, and Arafel on the west.
No, Arafel is on its east. It's all good. Directions are hard.
Directions are hard.
That's why I use GPS. It just tells me turn left or turn right or go straight.
Right. So yeah, it is bordered by what is called the Plain of Lances on the west, which is between it and Saldaea. And a tributary of the Aranin, which we've heard about elsewhere in the books. Some nations use the Aranin very much to their advantage. And then the Blight to the north, which is true about all borderland nations.
Do you know what they use the Plain of Lances for? Because I totally knew this and don't just have it up, and I just learned it right now.
What do they use the Plain of Lances for?
Saldaea and Kandor use the Plain of Lances to conduct military exercises.
Interesting.
Might be how it got its name.
Might be how it got its name. Probably how it got its fucking name.
Probably.
But yeah, it was formed just like the others, effectively, early on in the War of the 100 Years. Just like all the others, the governors met and it declared its independence to fight against the Blight and the Shadow Spawn. Jarel Sukovny was the first king of Kandor.
Sukovny's nuts.
Jesus. And this one, Kandor actually has always reminded me a little of Canada, actually, because they have a long history of participating in fur trade, fox skins. I would say probably beavers.
They're up north, don't you know?
Right, exactly. Fight me. Kandori surnames often have Slavic-inspired tone to them, often ending in vna and vni. Some names are East Asian-inspired, such as Normaga and Chukosa, a trait common across the borderlands, but particularly in Shienar. That's actually something that I definitely noticed in my first read and subsequent rereads, that Shienar definitely has a very East Asian feel to it, whereas like Saldaea has a very Arabian feel to it. Even though they're all like, they all remind me very much of Asian influence. It's just where in Asia, because Asia's a big fucking place. So yeah, this one, it is interesting. I never really felt like Kandor was Slavic, but at the same time, I also felt like it was kind of Canadian, which doesn't really track, but kind of does.
It could also just be like the inspiration for like the names.
Yeah, no, very much so. Certain indications imply that a child with parents of different nationality take on the nationality of their mother, which is an interesting thing about Kandor that I definitely did not know. That's a very Jewish thing, actually. I don't know how many other nations do that, but that is quintessential Jewish. Kandor is the home of a powerful merchants guild, and many affluent merchants have their origins there. Master merchants wear 3 silver chains across their chest, which actually very much reminds me of the sea folk. Funny enough.
I feel like I've seen the idea of merchants identifying like their success or status by the amount of Mr. T they try to impersonate.
Accurate.
I
Yes.
pity the fool that doesn't trade with Kandor. So we have Canadian, Jewish, Slavic, Mr. T.
Oh, Jesus.
If you needed more proof of a hodgepodge melting pot of different cultural influences.
I pity the fool who doesn't trade with Kandor.
What if that was like
I hate
exact?
it so much.
Oh, I hate it too.
I hate it so much.
It just feels wrong.
It feels so wrong. Oh man. But it is funny as shit.
Yeah.
But yes, the government of Kandor is monarchy. Not surprising. It does actually seem to be the most fucking popular of the governments in the Wheel of Time in general, let alone in the Borderlands. But
No
that also,
way.
again, goes back to the medieval Renaissanceian kind of feel of the times of Wheel of Time. So, it makes a lot of sense. The seat of power is called the Throne of the Clouds, and the throne is currently held by Queen Etheniel. The throne is located in the Azdaishar Palace in the capital of Shashin.
So now there's a Naruto inspiration. It is now the village hidden in the clouds.
Are you sure it's not also a actually, no, I guess, again, based on time, the veil would be inspired by Kandor. Do you think in Shashin they just have a city that's built way up in the clouds and they just have the moon door they throw people out of?
They named it off of they named it after the fact of the anime sound it makes when it reflects light. Just
Shashin. Wait, hang on. I need to go get my glasses so that I can go ahead and put them exactly perfect so that when I push them up, they just fully cover with light.
There you go. Yeah. So it's interesting. They have their capital, a city, Kanlum, and 2 villages, Ravinda and Manala.
Which I am guessing that they probably have more than that, but again, those are the only ones really of note.
It's the only ones we know about, therefore it's the only ones that exist.
Also, again, as Andrew brought up, and as should be brought up for all of these, the sigil and banner of Kandor, they are horse people in some ways, even though, again, this is interesting because I very much viewed Saldaea as the horse people of the Borderlands, which I think is still true, even if their sigil doesn't necessarily match it. But Kandor actually is the one where the sigil is a rearing red horse on a field of pale green. So... yeah, definitely when I was, again, in my first read, my subsequent rereads, things like that, it feels like Saldaea is very much horsemanship. But again, we also don't get that much information about Kandor, so maybe they're just as much horsemanship. We just don't see it as much because we don't have a Fail from Kandor.
Yeah. For a size comparison, even though I think it's actually probably like Chachin. I don't know. That's probably how I'm going to say it, Chachin instead of Shashin. But it rivals Tyr in size.
Oh, damn.
And itself and its kind of sister capital of Shol Arbella lay within what was the original borders of El Salam. But nobody knows what significance they were in El Salam before they became the capitals of their respective nations. But it's apparently extremely heavily defended, even though it's further south, far enough south of the Blight that vigilance isn't quite as important,
constant vigilance,
as it would be in like their smaller settlements.
Constant vigilance.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Andrew. Constant vigilance.
So, but another thing we didn't mention about a lot of the Borderlander buildings is a lot of them are built of stone, the stone buildings with glazed tile roofs that are much harder to burn.
Yes. Well, and of course, I mean, they don't really go into it as much, but it's very, Three Little Pigs kind of situation where you build your house out of whatever the shadow spawn can't easily destroy, because who knows how many Borderlands towns were originally, wooden thatch. And then the first time they burned down, or the second time they burned down, or the third time they burned down, they were like, all right, fuck this. We're making this out of sturdier stuff.
Yeah. So Morshadi has blessed us with more information on Kandor.
A blessing from the Morshadi.
Kandor can have either king or a queen, but has an advisory council known as the Crown Council or the Council of 12 that is always an even number traditionally, though not legally, and always balanced between men and women by law.
Which that is actually mentioned in the story.
Yeah.
I remember that when the army rides south and they actually first meet, the fiery queen of Kandor does actually talk about basically leaving things in the hands of the Council of 12.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, it's also mentioned that, she is fucking stuck to her side, is her, first Prince of the Sword.
Yeah. Her husband.
Who is her husband.
Yeah. Which that's mentioned a little bit later in what Morshadi has called to our attention.
Fuck Morshadi. I'm going to do things in the order I want.
But it's cool. By law, half of the council also has to be commoners. But the council is truly advisory. The ruler is under no obligation to do what they advise. However, it is strongly encouraged for longevity.
They are. They are.
The husband
if they
of
want
to
stay in power, they are.
The husband of the queen, like you just talked about, was expected to act as her champion in trials by combat, but a king was required by law to use a champion and not to take part in duels or trials by combat personally. In Kandor, much like we see often in the IL, women asked men.
That's a weird but cool rule to have. I kind of like that.
Yeah. It was women that asked men to marry, not vice versa, where it's not exactly a direct parallel to the IL, where it's up to the woman to accept the essential proposal of a man. It's in Kandor, it was the woman that proposed traditionally, and it was considered rude not to show one's face when meeting strangers, whatever the weather. Obviously, a fair callback to the threat of fades in the area. As in Altara, the Kandori women were also known to fight duels, though not as commonly as men. and seldom with the same weapons that men used, and rarely to the death. Public defeat and humiliation of one's enemy was commonly preferred among women. Whip duels were a common thing amongst women of the commoners, at least in the country. And Kandori women made no pretense that they did not fight the duels. They're like, yeah, we fight. Want to fight about it?
I wonder if they actually fought duels though, because it sounds like they actually would just get into a room with like a number of audience members and your mom joke each other to one of their humiliations. Just
like a public rap battle.
Yeah.
Stomp the yard.
Yeah, there we go. Yo mama's so fat that when she patrols the Blight, she patrols the whole Blight. Oh! Boom.
But apparently mass duels were also fairly common, where you'd have a two teams of 5 to 10, men or whoever that would stand off against each other, fight, and whichever team had the last person standing won. So, early football, but far more entertaining.
So rugby?
I would imagine that 20 men fighting each other as a duel, potentially to the death, is probably still more entertaining than rugby, though it's probably pretty close.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be a toss-up.
Actual swords or just plowing as hard as you can into people?
See, but you can only plow into a sword once. You can plow into other people so many times.
That's how procreation works.
Hey. Bow, chick, bow, bow.
But yeah,
all right.
So
now we come to the end, to the westernmost nation
and largest of the remaining 4. The salt of the Borderlander seas, Saldaea. So their sigil or flag or sign is 3 silver fish on a field of dark blue.
Here's your sign.
Yeah. Being the westernmost Borderlander.
So long.
Being the westernmost Borderlander country, to their west was the Aerith Ocean, and to the east, of course, would be Kandor and their plain of lances, where they conducted exercises together and poked each other with pointy sticks. It's a very apt reenactment of poking with sticks. Very good.
I do.
I'm proud of you.
I do what I can. Because we're in the Borderlands. We don't use them short spears. We use them long lances.
So Saldaea lies on ground that was formerly possessed by both the Basharade Kingdom and Jaramide, and its capital of Meridon is built on the site of the former Jaramidan capital of Darenbar. So they at least know what that area was before it was what it is now. Of course, just like the other Borderlanders, the government of Saldaea is a monarchy, which we get to see most solidly through everybody's, of course, favorite character, Fael.
Everybody's favorite character.
Yeah, definitely your favorite character. They have an advisory council that advises the sitting monarch, called the Council of Lords. Saldaean women are considered very different from everybody else, which seems to be the description of any population of any country anywhere in the world ever. They're a completely different breed.
Oh, yeah. No, our women are different from every other woman.
Yeah. They are noted for their fierce loyalty and strength of will, not to mention their temper. For Saldaeans, war is considered an entirely family affair, where the wives of officers and nobles often accompany the husbands on all campaigns, except for ones into the Blight. there's a very kind of Spartan-esque influence in the Saldaean farewell of a wife to their husband whenever they're leaving for battle. You know, if you fall, no, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. It's not really a Spartan-esque thing, but if you fall, I will take up your sword. So kind of like a, I got your back, homie. Go kick ass, kind of thing.
Yes,
though
that one.
though on a institutional level, they're not trained with a sword. However, Saldaean girls, women, females are notably skilled with both knives and hand-to-hand combat. All Saldaeans are armed with at least a knife at times, and in Saldaea, steel is not bared unless it will be used. And Saldaean farm girls are apparently notorious for being very forward, especially at harvest time.
I don't know if they're actually known for that or whether Fail fucking just makes
I think Fael
comments
makes
about
it.
it.
I think it's very much person to person. I think she just snubs her nose at the common farm girl.
Gosh, I'm being as forward as a farm girl during harvest.
I just kind of want it like in the show.
Karen,
I just want Marcus Rutherford to turn around and look at her and just be like, "The fuck."
Just, oh my god, how great would it be if he just like turns around and he's like, I've met Saldaean farm girls. They're not as forward as you.
They're not forward. They were always backwards to me.
Wait.
That would be a fight.
What?
That would be a
fight. That would be so much. That would be a stab in the chest.
I also want Perrin to, like, when they get in a fight and he's just tired of her shit, to sit there and be like, why don't you go sleep in the stables, Mandarb? Oh, that could be
amazing. I love it. God, if Marcus Rutherford does not say that at some point to his co-star, I will be angry beyond belief. And if I am not on set to hear it, I will also be angry beyond belief. Amazing.
So, Saldaeans typically have a very bold, prominent noses and slightly upturned, almond-shaped eyes. They're just as furious as their fellow Borderlanders in a fight, though they're equestrian, which for us backcountry folks like me means that they're thing with horses.
Yeah, they're horse people.
Their horse scales are undoubtedly superior. It's noted that no other nation in the Borderlands can match Saldaea for her famed and effective use of light cavalry. Not heavy, light cavalry.
Okay, so I will throw out there that I was completely right in my read that they are horse people. Yes. Good. I feel much better about that now that we have determined that I wasn't a complete moron.
Yep. Saldaean soldiers often carry serpentine-style swords. That's the wavy, curvy ones. And
very lords of Arabia.
Yeah. And Saldaean men usually have long mustaches, much to Elaine's delight and Tom's Knuckles' delight, I guess.
Man,
seem to really like mustaches. Everybody, well, most people have heard, if you're listening by this point, you've definitely have heard of the Sasara, a dance outlawed by several Saldaean queens for its indecency, but is still known by virtually every noblewoman. However, few will admit to the knowledge. And apparently it has the ability to drive men wild. I feel like I'm at a club where they only change hundreds into $2 bills. So I've never been to a club where anybody drove me wild.
Yeah, me either.
So it's got to be better than that.
I mean, that tanker dance that Perrin and Egwene saw drove all of them wild. So if the Sasara is anything like that or better, damn.
Well, apparently, at least according to Saldaean history, the Sasara has been known to have started 3 wars, sparked 2 rebellions, and numerous other small disturbances. So,
fucking Helen of Troy here.
I that's got to be one hell of a dance.
I know,
Like,
right?
I don't get it, but I have seen throughout history people go to war for far dumber fucking reasons. So,
Accurate.
let's see. What has Morshadi gifted us with knowledge? No major numbers of Saldaean troops were sent to fight in the Owl War. As we know, they had to turn back because of increased raids from the Blight. And they were like, oh, there's no threat really near Saldaea, so meh. Let's see.
Well,
Saldaea had
again,
one of
they knew
3
where the
false.
real fight was.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They had a false dragon that came to be after Logain was captured and before Rand proclaimed himself. And of course, that was Mazrim Taim, who, of course, made considerable headway before being captured.
Oh, Saldaea is another one that could either have a king or a queen, advised by the Council of Lords. The husband or wife of a Saldaean ruler was not simply a consort, but an almost co-equal ruler, which we kind of see a little bit in Davram Bashir's wife, Dira. Because let's be honest, they're the ones who are actually ruling Saldaea right now, because fucking Fail's got better things to do. Hereditary monarchy, eldest child of the reigning monarch, normally succeeding. If the child was younger than 15, a regent was chosen from the child's aunts and uncles of the blood, picked by a combination of age and degree of relationship.
I wonder how many times that diverted the direct lineage of inheritance of the throne, because that doesn't happen amongst kingdoms. So
We're not
yeah,
gonna talk about the sad parts.
That inevitably by the end of the series calls into question, and I think don't Fael and Perrin have a discussion about what his role is now that he's married to the heir to the Saldaean throne?
Yes.
I can't remember what they decide.
I mean, there are a number of different. Well,
I don't think they actually decide anything. She's just
don't
like,
actually decide anything, because it's one of those situations where, again, we're spoiler all the way through.
We said we didn't think we'd cover anything at the end, but we also gave a spoiler warning for the whole thing. So
yeah, exactly. So
we've been tricked, we've been lied to, and quite possibly bamboozled.
Oh, very much bamboozled. In the last battle, Saldaea fights in Tarman Gaiden along with everybody else, and Davram and Dira both die in the fighting. As well as Tenobia, who is another person who is actually, it's Tenobia who's basically ruling Saldaea in the absence of both Davram and Fail. And so she, again, everybody from Saldaea just fucking leaves Saldaea, because she marches south with the armies and is there when Agomar and Tenobia and the ruling class of Arafel and Kandor are all meet up with Rand in Formatting after going on somewhat of a merry chase. But
yeah, because Tenobia dies pretty early on.
Yes.
Which at that point makes Davram Bashir and his wife Diarra the ruling monarchs until they die in the fight, which then makes Fael the queen of Saldaea.
Correct. And so it is very true that, like, they do have a little bit of a conversation, and in fact, Fael seems very intent in some ways about keeping Perrin out of it. As far as sort of, yes, I know that I'm technically, third in line for the throne, or second in line for the throne. But at the same time, I really don't want it.
Because they probably never expected her mom and dad to die at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Though she might have those, since wives often accompany their husbands to the battlefield for like nobles and rulers. So
accurate. But yeah, so she definitely seems kind of intent on not really ruling Saldaea herself. whether that's just because she feels like she's far enough down in the succession or just because she has no interest in some ways, is a little up in the air. But I feel like she definitely doesn't really bring that up to Perrin very much. And then, of course, by the end of the last battle, we're not really having discussions of who's ruling countries anymore. We're
just
wrapping things up.
Imagine how strong of an ally you have now with Amon's Field or the Two Rivers area essentially becoming its own semi-sovereign nation. Because Perrin still agrees that they would still be a part of Andor, but with sovereign governability. But now with Fael as the Queen of Saldaea, the largest and very influential borderlander nation, his validity as a ruler just by proxy just skyrocketed. Now, of course, that doesn't really mean a ton for Elaine person to person, because to some degree she knows Perrin. And it's kind of like, but I could see it causing, but I could see somebody later in the lines of Elaine's rulership of Andor and down the lineage lines of Perrin and Fael, because whatever child they have, and as long as that child and their bloodline stay strong, will then become the heir to governing the Two Rivers, assuming they keep it as an inherited rule, and the rule of Saldaea.
Yeah, it's interesting because two things that you just said there. I feel like the Two Rivers would never actually become hereditary. I mean, just given that the village council and the women's circle are both such like elected positions and whatnot, and are actually very powerful. I feel like Perrin was the fluke as the Lord of the Two Rivers. I mean, like, again, I don't think that the Two Rivers ever is really gonna be just part of Andor. I mean, they're done with that, if you will. I mean, they are, but like they're not, because they're far enough away. They haven't seen Andoran soldiers. They haven't seen tax collectors in generations and things like that. And I feel like Elaine's not going to push that. But at the same time, I very much feel like Perrin's a fluke.
And Morsadi's also pointed out
definitely like necessarily sort of a shoe-in for Lord of the Two Rivers or Lady of the Two Rivers.
Morsadi's also pointed out that apparently there's at least some degree like an arranged tying of the future child of Fael and Perrin to one of Elaine's children.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, like they talk about it.
I could see them talking about it. Whether it actually happens or not, I don't know, because obviously I don't know the kid. I feel like that Perrin and Fael, coming from the backgrounds they do, are very much going to be like, look, if you like them and you want to, that's cool, because our families are friends. If you don't, then that's also cool.
They do actually talk about it as almost a condition of Perrin just sort of getting carte blanche in the Two Rivers. But again, it's a conversation that like very much sort of happens sort of. Like it's not actually a real like deal breaker for Elaine. It's not actually like a deal breaker for what's going on. It's just like we're talking about this as a way to, again, sort of solidify the lines. And again, Fael's not even pregnant by the end. So it's not like they're like legitimately making plans for the kids, because who knows whether Fael is going to have whether Perrin and Fael are going to have any kids.
Yeah, I mean, I also get the feeling that Perrin is very much like, okay, yeah, whatever, we'll deal with that later.
Yep.
Because he's like, if you try to come down and just tell us everything we're going to do after having ignored us for the memorable history, it's not going to go well. Yeah. Like, and because it's not just Amon's Field, it's all of the Two Rivers towns and villages that are essentially, they still are out there, but the main body of population is now coalesced into Amon's Field, which if you want to,
nobody trusts the Tarn Farriers. They're still their own
if you go with the circular nature of time in the Wheel of Time, that's something that has to happen early enough for the area to grow back into whatever it's going to be named, but essentially Manetheren 2.0 or Infinity 0.0, because this never ends and never begins.
Right.
So,
but yeah,
and I could that's one that I could actually see being named Manetheren again, just
Sure.
as a tribute to the history.
Though again, that one's a little bit of a toss up, because again, there is a little bit of a problem with that, because they are technically Andorran. And while like the Two Rivers does get a certain amount of independence, and they talk about it, and they appreciate the sort of need for it, and the fact that the Two Rivers has been through a lot, and that there's a lot of history there, actually going ahead and renaming the Two Rivers Manetheren is very like thumb your nose at Andor.
Well, I'm not saying it would happen like in even the fourth or fifth age. That would be something I could see.
But just sort of like in the
I mean, because Andor like actually used to be way smaller, and I really do like for the series. I can see names being different in the next full turning or in ages that come about again. But as far as like the generic overall themes of this being an independent nation and that and all this happening thematically, I think all that still happens. But of the ones we've talked about, whenever, Manetheren's time where it did exist and the wheel comes around again, I could see the Two Rivers actually calling themselves Manetheren and using like the
totally
legendary tales of Lord Perrin Goldeneyes, Blood of Manetheren.
Man, how
we've already seen
how interesting would that be?
We've already seen what the passing of one full age in between first age and current has done to like just stories of the Apollo moon landing and stuff like that. So it's not crazy that they're going that Perrin and his undying love for his queen Fael like carries on.
Right. That would be nuts, as far as the idea of what, not just parallels, but literally like a generation down or 2 generations down or even 3 generations down, how many people are talking about, Lord Perrin Goldeneyes having lived at the same time as Aemon and his wife and whatnot. That's nuts to think about. But yeah, anyway, we are getting to the end here. Unfortunately, we were not succinct enough, which it was great conversation, so I'm not actually complaining in any way, shape, or form. But we did not actually get to adding Malkir to this. I am sure that we will talk about them again. We have before, and we will in the future. They come up regularly with a number of characters, so it makes sense. But that is sort of it for the Borderlands. I know that we didn't necessarily get as deep into certain things as we could have, but we did try our best to, both give you the did the sound cut out? I still am getting sound from my stuff. Am I still oh, no, I'm not getting it on. Sorry. I apologize. My sound cut out. My bad, guys. But yeah, so unfortunately, we did not get to Malkir. We were not succinct enough. I liked the conversation, but it was not short enough to actually throw in a 5th nation there. But we did actually get to all 4 of the current Borderland nations as far as they are by the time that we start the story, which was nice. We also got, deeper into some of them than I thought we were going to, because I just didn't know there was as deep to go.
Thanks, more Shadi.
Indeed, yes, I appreciate the call out. I would not have known.
Y'all are all the best people anyway, but
you're all very.
But yeah,
Very much.
I think part of it that adds to like the not being sad about not getting to Malkir is one, there's so much out there that's easily a whole episode in and of its own.
Right.
And the fact that, you know, going a little bit longer, whatever, gave us time because we were hoping that Josh would be able to get in. Unfortunately, he obviously was not able to.
He
to
did.
get in and join us. Well, he wasn't able to join us for the podcast. He might have got in somewhere else, but
he did. And if he ain't dead, I'm gonna kill him.
yeah. But you know, these things happen.
Indeed, they absolutely do.
So, yeah. So that's the Borderlands in a slightly larger nutshell. What is a nutshell? What am I saying?
A nutshell. I like it. Whatever it was that you said was fun.
Yeah, a nutshell.
But yeah, that is the Borderlands. We did actually touch on a number of pretty fun things. As stated, a number of things that I did not know and that I actually learned from this deep dive, which is why we do them.
Yep. All right. Sorry to interrupt whatever you may be watching or listening to, whatever topic we're covering right now, but we absolutely have to take a moment to talk about and thank our friend Josh's better half and the longtime sponsor and supporter of the Black Tower podcast. Of course, this is the Crystal Barista. Whether you seek crystals and minerals and the like for their cleansing, healing, and positive vibes, or you just enjoy them and think they look pretty neat, you can find anything you could possibly want with crystals and minerals here at crystalbarista.com. With everything from individual pieces that can be ordered to monthly subscription boxes, there is something here for absolutely everyone, for every occasion, for whatever you could possibly want. There's no way you can't find something that you would like in her store. On the website, crystalbarista.com, you can browse by different categories, including the subscription boxes, minerals and fossils, crystal healing, stone jewelry, all the way to just the raw slabs of whatever may be being sold. And if you're more budget conscious and you want to look at anything that is limited by price, you can look for anything that is from $0 to almost $25, $25 to $50, and then anything that may be over $50. Now, if you are a rock hound and you want to get some really good tools to help you in your hounding, the Crystal Barista provides those as well. And you can find those on the same website. It's a very user-friendly website. You can find absolutely anything you need for your rock hounding, mineral, crystal, fossil needs. Now, going through the website, you can also find links to the Crystal Barista's Twitter, the Crystal Barista's Facebook, as well as the Crystal Barista's Instagram, and a couple other things. Make sure you go and follow the Crystal Barista on Twitter at RockPick, RockPick, to get updates as they come out and to be up to date on what exactly is going on with the Crystal Barista. She does like to throw up things on Twitter that may be available for you to get at slightly cheaper prices, but more commonly you can find that over on the Crystal Barista Facebook. So again, same name on Facebook, RockPick, and you'll be looking for the page that says Crystal Barista, formerly Rockpick Legend Company. Facebook is a good place for updates for the Crystal Barista. And if you just like to look at pictures and kind of see everything that's going on mixed in with some updates, hit up the Crystal Barista on Instagram. You can find her at the Crystal Barista. Again, that's barista with one R, Barista, which I think is the only way to spell it. But we all know how much trouble I have with spelling. So make sure you go over and check out what the Crystal Barista has to offer and tell her that the Black Tower podcast sent you.
But yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for being here. Those of you who joined us live, we are forever in your debt for your fact checking and your sound updates and things like that. And for those of you not listening live, definitely come join us. It's a fun time. We actually thoroughly enjoy ourselves, and you could get a thank you in an episode, both for your technical prowess and also for joining us on Patreon in the first place. Speaking of which, we do actually have a couple of those to shout out. We have a couple of new Patreons, one of which is our wonderful new friend, Jason Denzel. He was super kind enough after recording with us to join us on Patreon, which is a super blessing to us, just both because, it's that cool to have, just another Patreon in general, as well as to have it be somebody as cool as Jason that we actually legitimately got a chance to talk to and had a good time with. And the other is
Fresh Prince of Ravens.
Yay!
Thank you so much for becoming a new Patreon. Welcome to the Tower, Soldier. If you want to find out what your new title rank is, you'll find out, or will have found out, as when this goes public on the 17th during the live stream. If you didn't already read the post on Patreon. Ooh, I have messages.
You do have messages.
I need to look at those on Patreon.
Dude.
Sometimes I don't get the notifications like I should.
Which is fucking weird.
Last but certainly not least, we definitely have to congratulate Emily on your promotion. We're so happy that you got promoted from soldier to dedicated. I would not recommend going out and buying those fancy new pins, because that tier is also going to be changing names at Saturday. This coming Saturday, the 17th. It was all the Rumble training. But thank you so much for that. And of course, all of these, anybody that joins will get whatever benefits are currently listed until the change. Then it will be after 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 17th of April. Am I saying that right? Is it 17th or 16th? Yeah, 17th of April, where the new tier names and the new benefits and all will take over. So anything that is listed there currently, you will get. Nobody's losing anything. There's only one really swap around happening. So don't worry. If you are currently entitled to a Twitter shout out, it will be done if it has not already been done. Unless you've told us you don't want it to happen. Because if you don't want it to happen, we're fine with that too. It's literally less work for us. Not that it's that much work to do in the first place. But yes.
But seriously, guys.
Thank the three of you for being Patreons. Well, thank all of you for being Patrons. Oh, that worked out because there's 3 people listening live right now. And there's 2 new and a promotion. So
indeed, it works out. All right, guys. Well, as we all know here at the Black Tower podcast, not everything that is touched by the shadow is lost. And that is totally true for the great Blight.com. Now, Nablus and his team have done an amazing job of going ahead and putting this together, and it is possibly the greatest resource for those of us here in the Wheel of Time community. First off, you have this awesome homepage with posts from a bunch of your favorites. You can go and check out new things that you've never seen before, keep up to date on content creators that you already follow, and just go ahead and dip as many of your toes or your entire foot as you want into all of the different things that are going on. Now, also here, there is probably the best list of content creators. There's YouTubers, podcasters, artists, musicians, just about everything you could want. And if you don't see your favorite content creator there, that's fine. There is an application included in the site to go ahead and make sure that your favorite content creator is part of it. Just encourage them to fill out the application, and Nablus will be in touch. Now, after you've gone ahead and checked that out, you're going to want to pop over to the ever-expanding library here at the Great Blight, because it is something particularly special. Now, I don't know how many times I've gone ahead and joined a fandom only to find out halfway through my first read, looking up a character, that they die in the second to last book, which sucks. It always is very disappointing when you can't look up anything interesting about what you've read for fear of things that you haven't read yet. But they've fixed the problem over at thegreatblight.com. It is a spoiler free wiki. That's right. That means that if you've only read up to Path of Daggers and you really want to find out what in the world you missed about Egwene because there's something you just don't understand, or if you want to get more information about Rand because you think he's super cool, you don't need to read past Path of Daggers, and it's not going to ruin you on a Memory of Light before you've gotten there. You'll know exactly where to stop. You'll know exactly where you are. And once you're done with that, make sure that you go ahead and help the site out, the content creators out, everything like that, with the beta nature of it. Up here at the top, you're going to see a problem, have a suggestion button. That is specifically for if you have any issues with the site or if you have any feedback. It's only something that we can make better with feedback and with help from the community. So come on down, check it out. Grab a couple of our videos or grab a couple of our podcasts, and we'd love to see you there. But yeah, thank you guys so much, both for supporting us. We always appreciate being able to do more for you guys. And as stated earlier, actually, you guys didn't hear it yet. You will when the pre-recording goes live. But we do actually put everything that we get back into the podcast. We don't pocket any of it. We don't do anything like that. We very much focus on what can we do more for the people that we are already, trying to do stuff for, as well as additional people that we hope will be coming down the pipe, all of that kind of stuff. And we have a lot of that stuff coming as far as announcements on the 17th, so look out for that. We have some really cool stuff coming down, and I'm really excited for it, and you should be too, to a certain extent. But I certainly don't. We certainly don't require you to be excited just to know that it's happening. But definitely, again, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening live. Thank you so much for listening not live. We hope that you are having a great day, and definitely that you we would very much appreciate it if you leave a review on wherever you're listening to this, whether it be YouTube, whether it be podcast sites, things like that. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely leave a comment as far as your favorite new thing that you found out about the Borderlands, or just new things that you found out about, or maybe new things that that we didn't get into that you'd like to go ahead and mention. Also, we'd love it if you would subscribe. You definitely don't need to hit the bell if you don't want to hear from us every goddamn day or every goddamn week. But we do
every week. We don't do daily uploads, Daniel. What are you doing?
But we do every week uploads. And if you want to go ahead and see those, make sure that you allow yourself to do that. But yeah, we are definitely looking to increase our subscribers. So if you have not yet subscribed and you are realizing that you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. If you've already subscribed, awesome. We love you. Go check out all the other stuff. But yeah, other than that, Josh never actually made it, but he is one of your lovely hosts, normally on a regular week, and was also here for the pre-recording, so that's not nothing.
So if you still want to have seen or heard from him this week, the pre-recording will be out by Friday at the absolute latest, for sure, because I have plenty of other stuff to get ready for after Friday.
Indeed.
Oh God, so much to do. Anyway, but from all of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, thank you. So what's wrong with taking the back street? Thank you so much for your support everywhere, Twitter, Patreon, YouTube, Podbean, everywhere. Thank you so much for your support and all the places we are. Thank you so much for being here, for listening and or watching, whichever you choose to do. We're just happy to have you. And we will see you next week. I have been your Bajan Mahal Andrew.
I have been your Amin Khan Mahal Daniel. And again, from all of us here at the Black Tower, have a lovely rest of your morning. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, good night.